What about a go-kart track?
There you go.
Go-kart track in your basement.
Probably not in the basement, but definitely outside. I mean, I rip the go-karts outside. I've also just like when people in town now find go-karts, they just text me and they're like, "Hey, do you want this? Come get it." And I'll like show up at a garage sale and acquire more go-karts. I want to have 5 or 6 of them so that we can have like a little race series outside.
Love it.
But
big fan.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Do you actually have? Do you have go-karts?
Yeah, of course.
Did I see them? I don't remember.
I don't think so. I built a really nice
think I
one
saw them.
for the girls a few years ago, and it's like pink, metallic pink, like with big bass boat sparkles, and then it's got white upholstery and gold or
Hell
like
yeah.
bronze wheels, and then I just acquired another one last summer. That's like a little bit more of a tractor, but I'm just, like I said, people text me and they're like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I think I'm just going to acquire every go-kart I can acquire and we can race them. But the pink one is just big enough that I can fit in it, which is, it's real like,
Phenomenal.
like the girls can drive it very comfortably, but it's like a Bowser in Mario Kart situation with me where the steering wheel is like inboard of my knees and my knees like stick out past the steering wheel and they're like up around my chest. I think next time you guys come up, we should be able to have a proper race around the property in the carts.
Add another thing to my list of things Maddie hasn't done. I've never driven a go-kart.
Oh my god!
See, Maddie, you'd be great at it because you're tiny.
I'm so
It's like
little. It's like a normal car for me.
massive advantage. I mean, that's like
Well, the weight advantage.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Is actually, that's a real thing.
the
yeah.
go-kart would be so much faster with you in it than with me in it.
See, there we go. Those girls are gonna run circles around me though.
Yeah, they're actually pretty good at driving it.
I'm so
The little one yesterday, we went out Christmas shopping, and she spent the entire time trying to get me to buy her a Benchmade knife. she was like, because then I would have a knife, and I would tell people I got a knife, and they'd be like, "Oh no!" And I was like, and then she was like, "Maybe we'll get one for mom. Maybe mom." And I was like, "Man, if I bring home a $200 knife for your mom for Christmas, she's not gonna be real happy with me." She's like, when I'm 6, I can have a knife, which I think is right. 6.
That seems reasonable.
perfect. All right. Are we going to do our classic pod introduction that we always do to introduce the pod?
Peter, do the thing.
All right, radio man.
Okay. Let's do the thing. Hi. I always want to say like good morning or good evening.
It's not medium appropriate,
but it's not.
Could be any time.
Yeah,
You don't know.
I'm used to
It's true. People are into their pods at all kinds of times.
when I'm on the radio, when I have been on the radio, or even when I'm just recording for the radio, I always say good morning. But that's not appropriate. It's not appropriate here.
Someone could be listening to this 5-10 years from now, and they'd be so confused. They'd be like, "Wait, it's not morning," and then like,
We don't have morning anymore. They blocked out the sun years ago.
Yeah, it's before. Oh, this must have been recorded before they started doing the cloud seeding.
Wow, the solar era. Yeah. Crazy.
Anyway, you're introducing the pod.
Yeah, well, the pod is called Tired. The Maddie's holding up the car podcast for people who understand that cars are bad. My name's Peter. With me today are
Rory Carroll.
Maddie Riley. Rory Carroll.
At the front of this, actually, we should talk about Jean Jennings, who Peter, I'm sure, has some thoughts on Jean. I have a lot of memories of Jean as a writer, but I would say like thing that obviously sticks out to me the most is that she, when I came into car writing from nowhere in my late 20s, and had no experience, she was super fucking cool to me. And, she and I spent time together at auto shows and driving cars and stuff. And she always was like super interested in what I had to say. And like, we had great times together. Like, she was really one of the funniest, warmest, smartest people, who just like always seemed like, almost like too big to be a car writer, like she could have been anything, and stuck out in any field, and just had so much, to her. And she was just like such a big personality that like, it was just like, it's like you're on a trip with 12 guys who are all in the same profession as you. And then one of them is just like this exceptional person. And like, this, like, I need to talk to her. I don't care about these other fucking losers. It's like, I want to know what she's about. And her husband, Tim, wonderful guy as well. And yeah, it's just, man, like a very, crushing loss. What a just incredible force of a person she was. And, it's a real fucking bummer. It was like, I knew she was sick, and I knew like, I hadn't seen her in a few years. And I knew she was kind of like staying out of, public and stuff. But yeah, it was just like tough news today. But yeah, really, I'm like so fortunate that I got to know her, and so like, lucky that I got to hang out with her a few times. I think like my big regret in car writing is I had a bunch of chances to meet Denise McCluggage, who's like an actual genius, another like female pioneer in car writing. And, I saw her a few times, and I was too scared to talk to her. One of the times she was talking to Sterling Moss, which I was like, I'm not going to add anything to this conversation. Like, like, I was like, all right, like maybe we just let those two chop it up a little bit, not interject. But, Gina is someone who I kind of put in the same, breath, and I'm really glad I got to spend a little bit of time with her. So that's what I'll say about it. Peter, what do you remember?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, you guys have heard me talk about my kind of entry into the world of being a car obsessed adolescent, and that was reading Car and Driver as like a 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, and that was in the early 80s, and she was a big part of that magazine at that time. And as I got kind of deeper into it, and as I got completely consumed with this this magazine, and as it became kind of the lens through which I learned about the wider world, and I really like started to like learn the personalities of the individual writers. Car and Driver at that time was a really great magazine. It was a really fun and irreverent and smart magazine, and it kind of had its own personality that was really distinct from the other car magazines that I was reading at the time too, which like Road and Track and Motor Trend. Road and Track was good, but it was also a little bit stuffy, a little bit, kind of tweedy. And Motor Trend, it was just kind of pretty obviously like, they had their car of the year, and they would award it to just like whatever, just like shitty, terrible car was like.
Do you ever get
the biggest
the Brocky Yates quote about Motor Trend? Motor Trend is for people who move their mouths when they read.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, this was the thing. It was like, I mean, and the thing is, like, Car and Driver, like, they would openly fucking mock the other magazines, like they, and they made no secret of their contempt for them, And I'm sure, like, I mean, they were going on the same trips. I don't know if it was quite exactly how it is now, but I mean, you're colleagues with these people, even if you're not in, the same office or whatever. You're in the same industry, and but I mean, Car and Driver would just goof on them, and for me, reading this as a kid, I felt like I was being like let in on this kind of thing where it's like, oh, I'm with the smart guys. Like, I'm with these guys, And it's like, yeah, that magazine is kind of lame, that I read too. But Jean Lindemood, as she was known then, was a huge part of that magazine, and she was one of my favorite writers. She was I mean, she was notable because she was a woman, and there weren't any other women, I don't think, at any of the other magazines at that point, writing. But for me, I liked her because she was funny.
She's so funny.
Her stories were just really great and really fun. And the thing too is that the magazine then was I mean, it was published and edited by this guy, David E. Davis Jr. And with a name like that, you know, kind of sounds a little bit pompous, and he was a lot of bit pompous. He was, you know, one of these kind of, I mean, a larger than life figure himself, but also a very kind of, you know, self mythologizing and you know, like the good life, and we've talked a little bit about him before, and like with regard to like P.J. O'Rourke, who is also kind of, I don't know if did any of that stuff ever make it through to an episode. I can't remember if I
I
heard
think we
it. I know we've
talked
talked about it.
So the thing to know about David E. Davis is that his book, his like collected columns and stuff, was called Thus Spake David E., the collected wit and wisdom of David E. Davis.
Incredible.
Yes.
Which is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The collected wit and wisdom of the most influential automotive journalist of our time.
My man's out blasting.
Yeah.
Fucking
Right.
get in
Yeah,
there,
no,
man.
exactly.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
And a guy who was you know pretty you know outspokenly kind of right wing, and this was at a time, you know, and they would all just, you know, they would in the same way that they kind of you know were kind of had attitude about other magazines. They also I mean, and this was just the prevailing attitude, I think, in the enthusiast press at the time, was that, you know, basically government regulations were destroying the automobile industry, and that, you know, Ralph Nader was an idiot.
I can't drive 55.
Right, you know, and it's just like, right, 55. I mean, this was the era of the, you know, the oil crisis and 55 mile per hour speed
They
limits.
would print a postcard you could mail to them. They were going to mail to the government to say to redact the double nickel, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Direct action.
Yeah.
Did get the goods. They did.
Listen.
I mean, look.
Listen,
worked.
I don't.
Yeah.
I only drive 55. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, but having said all of that, David E. Davis did recognize in a very young Jean Lindemood somebody who was, you know, could be his equal.
Yeah.
You know, could fit into this group of you know, this male, very, very, you know, I mean, obviously male dominated, exclusively male clubhouse, and could hold her own. And she did. And when, you know, in 1985 or 86, he left Car and Driver to start, another car magazine called Automobile. And he brought her with him. And I think that kind of speaks a lot to just, you know, who she was, you know, and Yeah, and you know, and it's funny, you know, when I became friends with Davey, uh, uh, Rory, and my mutual friend, the person who introduced Rory and I. He was a car writer who found me online. Like, he was a Mountain Goats fan and read an interview with me where I talked about harboring my secret ambition to write about cars, and kind of made it his mission to get me into that world. Um, and I remember Davey talking, like, I remember just asking, I think I just asked him, I was like, well, who else do you know? You know? And I asked him about Jean, and he said, oh yeah, no, she's amazing. She's so great. She's so funny. She's so, you know, and I mean, in the way that he spoke of her, is exactly how you just did, Rory, where, just this just, you know, big personality. Um, and yeah, and it's funny. I mean, like, literally just like a month ago, it's so funny. I looked through my YouTube history, and for whatever reason, like a month ago, I was thinking about her and about Denise McCluggage, and I was watching some Denise McCluggage videos, and there was a great one that was on Jean Jennings' YouTube channel, that was from, I think, like 2013. Like, there was a concours d'elegance in Santa Fe that Denise McCluggage was like really instrumental in putting on it, and she was honored at this one, and it's just amazing because, I mean, she's another, you know, I mean, like you say, I mean, she's from a generation earlier, and when you talk about her and Sterling Moss, who's, you know, one of the greatest race drivers who ever lived, who died a few years ago. You know, they were pals, like, going back to the 50s. You know, and she, you know, because she was a driver, she was a you know, as well as a writer, and she competed with those guys, and they accepted her as a peer. And in much the same way that I think Jean and Denise McCluggage kind of shared a kind of you know, mutual you know, understanding and appreciation for, you know, I mean, for a long time they were the two women.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true. It's like, that was it. You know, I think, like,
Yeah,
certainly, like, automotive world is very male dominated now, but, like, there are so many more women in it today than there were back when both of them kind of made their names in it. It's like,
yeah,
like in their respective times, they were the only ones. You know, it's like,
yeah,
it was just them, which is like, and it's like, whatever. Like, it's not like we're out breaking bricks. We're going on press trips and driving cars and racing and stuff. But but it is, like, crazy to think about, just like all dudes and these two women. And it's also like, both of those people are spoken about with, like, such, like, reverence, like, among every automotive journalist now, which is, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, whatever, they kind of broke in and they were these, like, singular figures or whatever, and no one will say a bad word about them at all. You know what I mean? Like, about either of them. And both of them are spoken with, like I said, about such reverence. It's like,
yeah.
pretty amazing. No one speaks about me with reverence for good reason. And but
They
yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Someday.
No,
Dream alive.
I will be long gone from this business.
Yeah, I think you know, and it's I mean, it's funny. 70 seems so young. If maybe that sounds weird for someone who's 34 to say, but, like, I know a lot of people I am friends with a lot of people, good friends, who are pushing 60, and so 70 to me seems so young. And also, like, it's interesting, when I posted the thing in the chat, I remember one of you saying like, yeah, I wondered why she seemed like she had kind of disappeared. And because the article had mentioned that she had been living with Alzheimer's for a while, and we have a very high prevalence of Alzheimer's on one side of my family, and my Aunt Edie had it, and I know what it looks like when like a top 1% of most brilliant people you'll ever meet in your life knows that they are starting to lose their faculties. And I know that it's especially, I think there's almost like there's a protectiveness, I think, of the self, for one, of like you don't want people's final impressions of you to be someone that's not so much of you. And I think too, I know that, I think there's also a sense of, there's kind of a pride there where it's like, I know that, if I'm brilliant and I'm capable and I know that, like, I want to preserve that much of me as much as I can in people's minds, and, preserve that part of me that people found so, interesting and that they would respect, and have people see as little of me in decline as possible. And I think that I hugely respect people who feel like that's what they have to do, even if it's sad to see less and less of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've watched it too, and but yeah, it. I mean, when I saw that today, it was just like, oh, okay, that tracks. Because when I was watching those videos, and I was and I remembered, like, I don't know at what point I can't remember at what point she left Automobile, but she started doing her own.
It was like
her own stuff, and
2014 or something like that.
Yeah, and she was doing like that Jean Knows Cars stuff on YouTube, and but that like. I think the last of those videos was maybe like 2016, 17, and yeah, and I thought, it's like, oh, that's strange. I wonder what she's doing. Like, because for a long time, you would always, you would see her wherever she was.
Yeah.
But then at some point she just kind of went quiet, and so I did wonder, and I guess that's a. That makes sense. That tracks. But if people want to get a taste of Jean Jennings' writing, there's some of the classic stuff that is up on caranddriver.com. One of my all-time favorite articles. It's kind of like this famous or infamous story now. I think it's from like 1983, but they did this, and she was a participant in this, and I think she wrote like maybe the afterword to it. I think Brock Yates actually wrote the main article, but then everybody who was along for the trip like contributed some sidebar piece to it, but it was this story called Escape from Baja, where they took a bunch of then current sports sedans down to Baja California in Mexico, and it's just and kind of to evaluate these cars, right? But basically just to do this insane adventure, and kind of everything that could go wrong went wrong, and it's so fucking funny. And she played a big part in I guess she was like she was the only person in the party who spoke any Spanish at all, and they would keep having like these run-ins with the federales, and she would like talk their way out of it by, at one point, like, I guess Brock Yates was like, pissing taking a leak at the side of the road or whatever, and like, and the police come along and they're like, basically like threatening him to lock him up or whatever. But really, they're just trying to get money out of you, shake you down, right? And but she was able to tell them, oh, that guy, he's a pig. But yeah, it's a whole crazy fun story. So there's that one, Escape from Baja, and that is up on the Car and Driver website. And there's a couple of other stories of hers that are up there too. There's one where she does a turn as a rally co-driver.
Oh, sick.
And that's a really wonderful article because it talks about, I mean, it's crazy because it talks about fucking, she's at this rally like in, I don't know, 1984, 85. And like Hanu Mikkola is there, like who I got to meet so because cool. On the trip that Rory sent me and Marty on to the Upper Peninsula. And yeah, so that story is really fun. And there's another story of where she like kind of a shorter story where she does demo derby, which is pretty funny too. although now I have she does talk about how many blows to the head, and it's like now I just think about it's like I'm reading that and just like cringing and just going like, ooh, like that can contribute to
a lot of stuff.
So,
yeah. Don't bonk your noggin. Rules for life.
Yeah, but anyway. I also I did, it's funny, like at some point I had for years, I had all of my car magazines and it was like, it's probably literally like a ton of magazines. Like I'm not exaggerating.
Been there.
There's so many fucking, and every time I would move, it was like the records and the fucking magazines. And at some point I was just like, I can't keep doing this. I have to fight. Like these magazines got to go. Like, this is like mid 2000s, and I'm moving around, and everything's going online, and it's just like, it's not like throwing records away. It's like magazines. These things will all be in PDFs somewhere where I'll be able to access them, and so I tossed them all, and now I occasionally I have my buddy's store and he's got a bunch of magazines, but for some reason he mostly has like Road and Tracks from the 70s and 80s, very few Car and Drivers, but I do have this December 84 Car and Driver that I picked up at some point that has a story that she wrote in the back of it about IndyCar mechanics in the mid 80s, and it looks, I haven't reread it, but it looks really great. I'll scan that and I'll throw it up on the old Patreon. Well, do we want to talk about? I want to hear about
PRI.
PRI.
Yeah.
First time at PRI, I went down to support my buddy Andy DiDeRossi, helping with his YouTube channel. Andy has a lot of. He's bought a car factory and he wants to build a. It's actually a supplier factory. It's an old, I think Firestone factory, and wants to build a. We've talked about this quite a bit. There's been a lot of different iterations of what Andy plans to build, but the current one, and I think the correct one, is a side-by-side, electric side-by-side, basically. So like a smaller than a Willys Jeep, a little bit bigger than a 4x4 or a four-wheeler. To work like industrial and farm applications, but he wants to build them in Detroit. But he also has a rally team. He's got a bunch of other stuff.
Busy.
And I think the idea for us was to get down to PRI to meet some people who can help us with fabrication equipment. PRI is owned by the same people who do SEMA, the Special Equipment Marketing Association, which is like the automotive aftermarket. So like stuff that you buy for your car that's not made by the manufacturer. It's their trade group. So their big thing is they put on the SEMA show in Las Vegas, which is for street cars primarily. So it's like wheels, tires, lighting, all that stuff for all kinds of cars. It's massive. It's like one of the biggest events in Las Vegas every year. This is like that, but it's just for racing. So it's every conceivable type of racing and every conceivable company that supports racing. So people selling big industrial equipment, so you can like make frames or do like massive scale welding and fabrication stuff, to like people who make air valves for like tractor pulls and like hyper specialized. And it's like, it's really cool because you get to meet a bunch of Trump voters. I'm just joking. That is that is one thing that you do see. It's in Indianapolis.
Well, it is motorsports.
And man, it is like, yeah, I heard a lot about what Kamala was trying to do, and thank God she was stopped.
A lot about DEI, a lot about woke, a lot about...
Didn't hear about that. I don't think
good.
actual people care about it. That's like a TV thing, I think, and Twitter.
A lot of that online, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think in IRL people really know much about that. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Some jobs I've had, they know a lot about it, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
Got some experts.
It didn't come up at PRI.
That's awesome. Good. That's good.
But I think it is always fascinating to be in a situation where you get to like really plumb the depths of like the hyper specific types of like businesses and operations, manufacturing operations that are in the U.S.
Yeah.
And it's like walking around there, it's like, you know, there's big, like Recaro was there, like Stilo, the helmet makers were there, like big automotive companies. But it's like, you know, you get down to like, okay, I make transmissions for drag racing applications, and the cheapest, lowest grade transmission we have will handle 1,000 horsepower, and this one will handle 5,000 horsepower. And it's like, how many of these fucking things do you sell in a year? How many of these people, you know what I mean? Like, how is this a business? Like, and they're all like, you talk to the people and it's like, you get the sense that they're all doing pretty well. And like, you know, like employing people, and like, you know, it's like the niche among niches. And it's like, it's a really cool show. Like you walk around and see, like I said, those transmissions for very specific applications. And then we met this guy who invented a tubing bender. He's super it's called JD Squared, I think is his company. And he gave us his whole fucking life story, but he was like, he invented this tubing bender that is like the most popular tubing bender in the US, and now they have a bunch of different products and yada yada. But I guess he was he had a race car, or he had a street car that he was racing. He was racing a Pinto and taking people's money because his was extremely hot, and he was racing people with Mustangs and Camaros and winning a bunch of money, but he kept getting in trouble. So his wife or girlfriend or whatever bought him a car to race on the track, and he was going to go racing, and he couldn't, for some reason, rent a tubing bender. So he just made one from scratch, and then went into business selling tubing benders, and now is like, you know, whatever. He's like super wealthy, big Trump guy. But also like, he was like walking around the conference area or whatever, the convention hall, pointing out other people who had just copied his design and were making them elsewhere, like in overseas or whatever. And he's like, yeah, these guys started copying me in 92, that, like saying hi to everybody, like, yeah, you know, like, he's like, I lost count. I think there's 57 companies making my design of, or 47 companies making my design of tubing bender now. But it's like, it's just those types of guys. And again, it's like, man, how is this guy fucking rich selling these tubing benders? And it's like, I guess he said SpaceX was buying at one point, like, I forgot, it was like either 10 or 100 of them a week or something, because they build all the towers that like launch and receive their rockets are all made out of steel tubing, and they use this tubing bender to make them. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I love talking to those guys. I met the guys who make these abrasive discs that I've wanted for a really long time.
Yeah.
They're Bad Dog tools. As you guys know, I use a lot of metal grinding equipment, and these ones are said to last a long time. But I like watch their videos online, and met those guys, and I don't know. It's just wild. It's like I said, it's all these little companies. Again, you would think, like, how many fucking customers can any of these people possibly have? And it's like, as it turns out, plenty.
Having a niche is the thing to do. I mean, look at
Look at us.
Yeah,
I don't.
right.
Well, God willing.
Look how successful we are.
We're gonna make our niche is gonna make us so much money. Actually, the closest analogy I can think of is like, I mean, ask a furry. Like, fursuit makers are in the weirdest niche you can imagine, but if you make something really specific for fursuits that a lot of people want, like, those people are making crazy money, insane-o money from all the other furries paying them from their fancy tech jobs. So, like, listen, having a niche, that's what you do.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at the list of. We should post a link to this on the fucking the list of exhibitors.
Tired is sponsored by.
We should post a list. There are.
We do an ad read for the least objectionable PRI vendor.
Yeah.
So anyone there who's like, if you like flash them like, hey, no, I did a hill climb in a Lada that I rebuilt.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing too. It's like we were talking to them about sponsoring Andy's rally car, and a lot of them were like, yeah, all right, like. I mean, I think a lot of these people, if I were to be like, hey, I used your parts in my car and showed them a picture of it and obscured the hammers and sickles, they'd be like, all right.
Yeah, but we need to find the people for whom if you don't obscure the hammer and sickle, we need to find someone who's...
I do not believe any of those people were here.
Actually, maybe we should find a furry who would be willing to sponsor the... That might be a better
There's
market.
got to be some overlap.
I'm trying to think if there are any furries there. This may be the first large event I've been to in a year where there was not a single furry. But
cultural death.
I did get immediately clocked as ethnically Irish by an Irish guy at this. We're talking to these guys who make transmissions, and it's a Lithuanian company, and he was talking to Andy, and Andy asked him where he's from, and I was like, he's from Ireland. That's not a Lithuanian accent. And he said something about like I forgot what he said, but it was like vaguely insulting about me looking extremely Irish. And I was like, yeah, like, and I had to explain to him, I was like, you know, I used to, I think, like, I assume like all Americans, right, are like mutts, and that they have like, you know, you could be like, oh, whatever, my family's German or whatever. But in reality, you're like a tiny percentage German because you've been in the United States for a long time and everyone's intermarried and yada yada. But my sister a few years ago took a 23andMe, and we moved here pretty late, like in the 1840s, and she was like 79% Irish or something like that. It's like just a couple of non-Irish relatives, which is really, really unusual. But it was so funny to just immediately get clocked from like across the room, like, oh yeah, like he said something like, you look like someone I would be behind on the boat or something like that. It was just like someone who eats a lot of potatoes or something. But It was just like, God damn, dude, you got me.
Got him in one. Sniped.
But it was super fun. I had a great time. I went, drove down at 3:30 in the morning, and got there, I don't know, mid-morning, and spent the whole day there. I also weirdly, I was having dinner, and this kid came up to me and was like, hey, are y'all from the TV? And I was like, what? And he was like, you're from TV, right? And I was like, no. I was like, I mean, I've been on TV a couple times, but I'm not like, I don't have a show or anything. And he's like, you look like the dickhead brother from Step Brothers. Which I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't have that. I've never seen that movie before, and I was like kind of afraid to look it up.
Oh my god!
But
who's in that? Is it Will Ferrell and what's his name?
John C. Reilly.
Yeah. Which one did he?
I think it's I asked him. I was like, "Is it Will Ferrell or John C. Reilly?" Because there's the only two people I know who are in the movie, and he was like, "No, it's their
There's
brother."
a third.
And I was like,
"Hold up, I've never seen the
so
film."
I like I said, I was just looking at the list here of exhibitors, and one of them is Verso Deck, which I initially read as Verso Books, which is like the left.
It's like, oh, interesting. Oh, Verso has a table here. Interesting.
Yeah. But it was cool. It was really fun.
Well, they're trying to reach out to their industrial, the proletariat.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a big, they were trying to give away books to these people, the small business owners of America. But it's like, we obviously have not reached these people with our message. But yeah, we, I don't know, we had a good time. It was a really cool experience. And I think like I said, there's something about like being in a room with all these people who are like kind of in the same position, but like super nichey and have all their own little businesses. It was just really, it's like everywhere you look, it's like, oh, that's a business. So that, like, oh, that's a different, and it's all like racing stuff. It's not like SEMA is like, there's a lot of stuff that's like pure ridiculous, show-offy type stuff. Like, those trucks that have they say the Bluetooth drive shafts where it's like the truck is like 6 feet tall off the ground and it's on 30-inch wheels, and like it has a million lights on it, and the frame and the suspension is all painted and looks like just Brodozer, but they don't have drive shafts because they like couldn't get that part of the build done, so they have to push them into place. It's like the Bluetooth drive shaft. Or like cars that don't run, or like like
the whole time you're describing that, I'm just going, wait a minute,
and Peter both just like made it like a dog that just like heard something outside, like
like
but
this is all like real stuff. Like it's all all this stuff works and it's built for motorsports. It was really cool.
That's cool.
I think it's hard to get in if you're not, like, I don't think there's a public way. Like you have to be like or you have to just say you're in the business, which is what I did. But yeah, it was cool. I would say like I love that stuff. I love meeting these people, and I would just go walk into a booth and stand there until someone started talking to me, and I would just sit there and chat them up. And like also really some like super charismatic, like Billy Mays type people who just like have like the fucking gift of gab, like sit there. It's I love that. I love that shit. That like in a different world, that's me. It's just me out there hawking my abrasives or whatever at a trade show.
You built that Lada, a bunch of that from at home DIY. Like you could offer your services in some kind of way. I'm sure. Make your pitch.
Oh, dude, there were so many people who asked me, we got onto the topic of the Lada and they were like, oh my God, like, do you have any pictures? Like they were like excited about it. Like, that's so fucking cool. And it's like, yeah, these are my people.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. And I will say, I love being in Indy. It's like, Indy is a really fun town. And it's very weird. It's a very strange place, but I've never had a bad time there. I did have a bad time there one time. But for the most part, I've never had a bad time there.
You never played the Vogue.
Yeah, Broad Ripple, baby.
Is that bad?
Yeah, the Vogue is just this old venue that did go there, I think, this summer, and they had improved their dressing room situation, but up until pretty recently, the dressing room was just so tiny and
brutal.
so depressing. It was just like, it was really brutal. There's a very funny picture of like it's because it's a green room, so it's painted like really bright green, like kind of the same color as your microphone thing, Rory.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a whiteboard, like for some reason just on the wall behind us, and somebody as a joke just started drawing a hangman, like we're gonna play hangman. and of course the first word, I can't remember who did it or how it even happened or how we solved it or whatever, but it was just suicide. And there's just this picture of me just in front of the whiteboard with the hangman thing and the letters filled in, reading suicide.
Oh man,
one of the funniest pictures of all time. I have been, but Indianapolis has like, I've still never been to the Speedway,
Yeah.
which I need to rectify.
Yeah, you really do. That's crazy.
field trip.
Yeah. But I do remember going to a, there's like lots of old school stuff there. There's like old Midwestern city stuff, and like a really cool old, like bowling alley, like maybe with a steakhouse attached to it or something like that. Does that ring a bell?
Sounds plausible, yeah.
Sounds like Indy.
Anyway, it was just like one of these places that you walk in and it's just, you feel like you've just stepped back into the 1940s or something.
Go to St. Elmo's and get the shrimp cocktail with the super spicy, what's the stuff they put in there? Horseradish. Pretty nice.
Oh yeah.
Pretty solid.
Rory, what did you drive to get down to PRI?
I drove the GTI down because taking the Rivian would have taken so much longer. I initially was planning on driving down to pick up Andy in Detroit, which would have taken, by the Rivian's calculations, 11 hours and 20 minutes, which is absurd. So I took the GTI. You could drive to New York in 11 hours. I could drive to the city. I could drive to New York City in 11 hours from here.
I did see that weirdly. Is it Consumer Reports that just released like a bunch of their kind of annual year-end survey ranking things? Somebody did, and Rivian was at the absolute bottom in terms of reliability, but it was like at or near the top for customer satisfaction.
That is very strange.
Isn't that weird?
I have not seen that, but I will say, like, the methodology for those is always super weird. So I guess, like, they tested, I'm reading this right now, they tested and they did really well in all of their tests, but they had a overall score of 55, which is the 5th lowest overall. Let me see. Oh, member survey. List of the worst automakers represent the bottom 5 of the 34 brands that were ranked in the organization's annual member survey. So it performed really well in their testing, but their members didn't like it. But I will say, like, a lot of that stuff is like, people will like, they'll have a bad experience and they're the ones who are most inclined to respond. I think too, like, the Rivian stuff, like the early ones are bad, and like mine's been fine, but I don't think it's consistent. Like, it's a new company or whatever. But a lot of like JD Power and stuff, like initial satisfaction is just like, I didn't know how to use the radio, so I just rated it really poorly. And like, the company will get, which is like, you have to make an intuitive radio. That's the lesson. Like, don't try to be cute with your controls, because that is really frustrating. But a lot of times it's like, like I said, the methodology for those can be all over the board as far as like what they're actually scoring and what people are actually, what they're reporting. You know what I mean? Like, what they're actually asked to report on. But yeah, I don't doubt it. I think, like, Like I said, ours has been fine. We've had it for 8 or 9 months, but it's like I've also read stories where people like brought them home and they just didn't work at all.
Yeah.
Like just like need a new car.
Yeah.
Which it's a new company. That's to be expected, I guess.
My perception was that Consumer Reports, like when I was growing up, my dad treated it as kind of like the Bible, you know. And now I feel like the past couple of years, like ambiently, I feel like there's less trust in Consumer Reports.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to they do like buy stuff and test it, and like they have like a pretty firm like methodology for how they do it, whereas like, you know, most automotive review is just like, yeah, I drove it and it seemed fine. Like they are testing for reliability. They are like actually living with the car for a year and you know, and reporting on it. So I mean, I do tend to trust them. You know, when it comes to like those types of questions, I do tend to trust them. So maybe there is a vibe of distrust though. Maybe something I'm not picking up on.
It's good to know they're still pretty good.
I do know at Jalopnik. Well, when I took my leave of Jalopnik for like 9 months or whatever, one of the authors started doing these stories that were like basically just like, here's a list of, you know, like they would put out like, here are the 10 worst selling, or here are the 10 worst, least reliable, or whatever cars they tested or whatever. And Colin from Jalopnik would just like rewrite that story and like include all the data, you know, that they had from the story. And I came back and I was like, dude, like I think Consumer Reports is going to be pissed about this because it's all behind like a paywall. And he was like, well, I have a password from a previous job. And I was like, can you like email them and just make sure this is cool? Because like it seems like something they could, like, it's not illegal or whatever, but it seems like something they could be rightly kind of mad about. And he emailed them and they were like, no, we fucking love it. Like this drives people to our site and like drives subscriptions.
Oh, interesting.
That's
and so,
awesome.
like, much to my relief, they started like sending us like, hey, can you post this one or post this one? And like, they are like, it was like a joke, but it was like, if you're having a bad traffic week, throw up one of those Consumer Reports slideshows and like goose the numbers a
I
little
was going to
bit.
say, 'cause I feel like I've seen like that's half of the post is just like,
yeah, it depends on how
Sometimes.
traffic is doing, but if it's going bad, that's a pretty good indicator that's going bad.
This alone has increased my
That's
esteem
funny.
toward Consumer Reports again, actually.
Yeah.
Good. My mom's trying to buy a car, so I'll point her to actually, yes, do go to Consumer Reports. Still don't worry about it.
Well, I mean, just to wrap up, speaking of people losing trust in things, I feel like we're all of us are kind of slowly losing trust in our senses and maybe our grasp of reality. And I think there's nowhere where that's more readily apparent than apparently in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Right now, Maddie, have you seen the drones, Maddie?
I had no idea this was happening until there were a bunch of news stories. I literally was like, what are you all fucking talking about? I have never seen anything unusual in the sky above New Jersey, and I live here.
Okay, well, you obviously haven't been looking hard enough because people are losing their fucking minds.
Everyone here is out of their fucking gourd. Yeah.
So I initially encountered this story, seeing some videos people were posting, like, hey, there are, I'm just pulling this up on Twitter right now, and the trending topics are Bears at Vikings live,
Okay.
constitutional amendment, Seinfeld, trans.
Can I get a break for one day on Twitter?
I would click on that, but the thing about Twitter trends is it's always 100% incomprehensible what the fuck, why anything is trending. So you click on it and
I
it's
don't
like,
think that one's going to be good.
it's
Tell
not
you
going to be
that.
good.
Nope.
But so I encountered this on Twitter first. And I think the videos I saw were supposedly of drones, but it was like some lights and then in the air. And then I saw a video of a local state rep crying, saying that he drove all the way to some hearing or something, and the government wouldn't give him any answers, and he was really mad about it.
Was he actually crying?
Pretty close. He was very emotional. Just like, not to sound like too toxic masculinity guy, but it is very unpleasant watching a state rep guy lose his shit emotionally in public. It's just not. It's not.
Nah.
You can't do that, man. Like you can't. If you're an elected official, you can't go on TV crying. It's just not.
Brett Kavanaugh set a terrible precedent.
It really did. It is.
It's no good.
Like I said, whatever, men need to express their emotions or whatever, but it is unsettling.
But not
watching.
about stupid bullshit.
No, it's unsettling.
Come on. Yeah.
But anyway, and then I saw some more videos, and then I started seeing one of my Twitter mutuals posting photographs and being like, this is a fucking airplane. These are all fucking airplanes. None of these are drones. They're airplanes.
There's also that picture of like, oh, but these were still, and someone else was like, that's Orion.
The Orion one was the one I saw last night. And it was somebody funny. Hold on, who was it? It was a celebrity.
Peter, we are in the mines. We are in the Twitter mines looking at these things all day, and it's like this is what it's like. Is there are people the New Jerseyans. You need to look up a map of Superfund sites. Type Superfund sites anywhere and look up a map and get an idea of what the groundwater has been like for people who have lived here their whole lives.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Maddie, because I think there is some speculation that what these drones are doing is monitoring radiation because apparently there's some sort of nuclear threat. Maybe there's some nuclear material that's been smuggled into, or that that is maybe being prepared for some nefarious use, and so these drones are monitoring that situation, and so there could be some sort of nuclear attack imminent.
Please take me first. Bond, please, your lips to God's fucking ears. Like, just smithereens, to shreds, you say. Just, like, take me out. I'm begging.
The governor, I guess, posted a video of some drones yesterday that the community note underneath it said immediately, these are... this is Orion's belt. This is like, and it had an illustration of Orion. But I think there was another fucking celebrity last night doing it. And my mutual guy, Chris, at the Wapple House, Christy Yamaguchi, Maine, has been posting these videos with just increasing levels of being upset by these insane people who believe that they're seeing.
I liked the one where someone literally just pulled the flight path of a plane and matched it up to the time of a tweet they saw and was like, you just saw like flight whatever out of fucking Newark. Like, you just saw this out of EWR that left at this time. Like,
I'm going to send you guys a link to a video.
Yeah.
Let me find it.
Wait, do you have one where it's an actual drone?
No. No. This YouTube video, if you just go to about go to a little bit before 3 minutes in. This is like a news thing.
What is a News Nation? Is this like an America One?
Oh, I've been on News Nation before, I think.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's being presented as like this, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. This is very alarming. We don't know what this is.
These are
oh my
airplanes.
God. Well, and then they go to this guy, and who's like, they've sent out, he's on the scene, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, look, I was very skeptical about this. I don't believe in it. Blah blah blah. But after what I've seen tonight, I don't know what to think. And
The experience I had last night, however, changed the way I feel about this story completely. What I saw was more sophisticated than I ever imagined. Take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 lights, 6 lights. I didn't believe what I was seeing. But what was I seeing? We're here in central Jersey. We've been looking for the past hour. I think we've seen about 40 or 50 of these drones. In fact, there's one over my shoulder right there.
And then they start showing like these, purported drones. Mm-hmm. And he says, and when you zoom in on it really close, you can see it's like, these are not airplanes. There's no way that's a plane. And it's like, and mind you, I'm watching this. It's late at night. I've taken my medicine, okay, my going to bed medicine, and I'm watching this, and I'm just going like, I think that's a plane.
Yeah, these are all physically airplanes.
It's a plane.
Yeah, no, that is exactly an airplane. Like, there's nothing else that it could possibly be. And it's like, even as like the guy saying, well, there's no way that could be a plane. And it's like, bro, it's a fucking airplane.
Yeah, it's very clearly.
It's so clear. It's a 737 or an Airbus.
Yeah, it's a plane.
It's just like, oh my God.
So I haven't done my usual look into this, but is there any, like, I haven't seen one that's like, oh, maybe that's not a plane. They're all planes. They're all not.
Well, and this is the weird thing, though, is like, apparently, like, there have been like some incidents where the FAA, like on November 22nd, issued some flight restrictions. On November 26th, a medevac helicopter is prevented from picking up an injured car crash victim at the Raritan Valley Community College in Branchburg, New Jersey, because drones were spotted in the area, a school spokesperson told USA Today on December 4th. They're talking about it as being like SUV size, and it's like, how can people fucking tell that it's SUV size when it's like in the air? It's like, you can't tell the difference between like, a drone and a 737, and you're oh, it looks SUV size to me.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, I think it's just mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, everyone's about to start sacrificing their smallest house pet to the drone god to beg it to leave for the season and protect our crops.
I guess I gotta say, like, with any of this stuff, I just assume that the people are dumb. This is
are going
like,
insane.
Yeah, or just like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, I feel like it's just like, more than anything, just kind of a manifestation of this kind of ambient insanity that, like, shit is fucking crazy right now, you know? And the cognitive dissonance of pretending that it's not is really starting to like, it's like the threads are starting to show, man.
Yeah.
Like, we're down past the wear markers.
Yeah. I guess that's the bigger thing with this is like, this is like, these people are fucking losing it.
Everyone is just ambiently going a little more insane and more paranoid and more deranged about like anything.
Well, it's like in a year plus now of just ignoring this fucking ongoing fucking genocide, and and now like fucking Syria's gone, and like Israel is just like, oh well, we'll take this too, and it's true. and like, I don't know. It's like, that's just my fucking pet shit, but it's just like, it's like, you got that on one hand, and then you've got like fucking climate shit, and they don't care. They don't care.
No. But that's it. Like, everyone just feels precarious, and like, no one. Trump is out here going like, it might actually be hard to bring grocery prices down any further than they already are. I don't know, folks. And like, just like, no one knows what's going on. Everyone thinks that we're always like on the brink of war with China because of this, that, or the other. And just like, everyone feels like everything's kind of gone insane. And
Boy, some of these contradictions are feeling a little heightened these days.
The heightening of the contradictions.
I don't know. I say, fuck it. Let's ratchet it up, man. Let's go all like
'em.
put some drugs in the water. Let's really start turning the screws on some people. I want to see what happens. I'm so tired of being in the liminal state of like watching
twilight.
things fall apart. Like, let's, whatever. A couple years ago, I would have said, like, I'm not an accelerationist. We should just wait it out and maybe things will get better. But now it's like, kind of got proven wrong on that one. Let's ratchet it up. Let's get people really behaving.
Listen, we're already in the pool with our clothes on. How you can only get so wet.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the first time around when fucking Trump got elected, and it was like kind of on the heels of Brexit, right? And I remember just thinking like, well, we're all accelerationists now, you know. And it's like, and this moment really does feel even more like that, you know, where it's like, my favorite line from any movie ever. Have you guys ever watched Strange Brew? Do you know Strange Brew?
Yeah, it's been a long time now. Yeah.
Bob and Doug McKenzie movie. Maddie, do you even know what this is?
No.
Bob and Doug McKenzie were these characters from SCTV.
Oh, sure.
It's Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas, thank you. Yeah. And it was like these two brothers who were just kind of like, you know, your kind of quintessential Canadian guys, you know, and they would just talk about drinking beer and they made a movie. I don't know how funny it would be to watch it now. I haven't watched it in a long time. But at the time it was very funny. And there's still this one scene where they're in a van and they realize, and they're like driving down this hill, and they realize that the brakes have been cut on the van. Somebody has sabotaged the van. And Doug, who's driving, just puts his hands up in the air and he says, "No point in steering now, eh?" Stay tired. Stay. Keep your hands on the wheel.
Yeah. No. As I've said in previous episodes, stay tired. Nobody kill yourself. We're all gonna figure it out. Find a friend. Put on some tunes you like. Don't rules from Tired Pod. 1, don't kill yourself. 2, don't go full Molina mode. Mix it up a little.
Why does this feel directed at me?